Go ahead, Alan. We're live.
Okay. All right. I believe I don't see Rebecca myself here, but hopefully she's there coming. But thank you again, everyone. Uh, so yes, this is our webinar series today on from the Universal Peace Federation. And today's program is hosted by the International Association for Peace and Economic Development, which is one of the 8 associations under the UPF umbrella. So my name is Alan Jessen, and I'll be your host for today. I'm excited to be here with you all. For the sake of our new guests who may be joining us, UPF was co-founded in 2005 by the late Reverend Samya Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. And we are a 501c3 NGO with general consultative status with the United Nations and the Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. We're an international and interreligious network of individuals and organizations, including representatives from religion, government, civil society, and the private sector, dedicated, working, caring deeply about achieving world peace on the foundation of mutual prosperity, interdependence, and universally shared values. So that is about us. And let me say a word about today's program, because I mean what I say. I think you're in for a special treat as long as we can have Rebecca join us. But the topic is how a human-first culture improves AI. And both of our speakers are highly articulate. They care deeply, and they have spoken boldly and publicly on this topic. Today, as a human civilization, we stand at the beginning of this technological revolution called artificial intelligence. There are many unknowns. The fact that people have to speculate and attempt to piece things together themselves to hypothesize about what is really happening is creating more confusion and misdirected debate. So it's a crazy place to be at this moment with artificial intelligence. So for this very reason, our speaker today has invested thousands of hours to do research to uncover and share the facts. She is soon releasing a book of 400 pages. She told me in 2 parts. So a book of 400 pages with her findings and an outline for why urgent action must be a priority. And more than just scaring people, we must work for solutions, right? But before we can solve the problems, as we know, we need to understand the problems. Her goal is to accelerate this understanding with a detailed foundation of knowledge so people can have more productive discussions. And I think that's really interesting. So people can have more productive discussions and find and take meaningful action. This includes how the business sector can implement AI in their operations, keeping human values in the forefront. Both the business sector and the government sector, I would like to add that. So it's a reminder that, just to remind you, I'm sorry, that we're being live streamed, and this is recorded and posted on our us.upf.org website. And we work with a chat function for questions after the presentation. So please keep that in mind, write down your questions and send them through chat. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. If Rebecca is here, I believe she is. Can you spotlight her there? There she is. Hi there.
Hi,
Welcome.
Alan. I'm here.
Sorry for the little
Hi,
trouble.
everyone.
Yeah. Now you have a PowerPoint, right?
I do.
Okay, so you can, I'm sure you can do the share function just fine with that. But I'm about to introduce you, and Rebecca is a futurist, trusted advisor to entrepreneurs and executives, best-selling author, and speaker passionate. We could say passionate speaker, but she's a speaker passionate about helping organizations and humans realize their goals and full potential. Rebecca is CEO of Human AI Institute and the Inc. Magazine 2023 Power Partner Award winner for helping other businesses succeed. She's also the founder and CEO of Ascently Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting a human-first culture that respects and protects human creativity, autonomy, and sovereignty. And that's what we need to hear from you today, Rebecca. So she leads a mission to inform and inspire organizations and individuals on how AI can be leveraged for maximum human benefit in alignment with human values. And she's adding this statement: I love technology innovation, but I love humans more. So with that, the floor is yours, and thank you.
Thank you, Alan. That's a lovely introduction. And it's wonderful to see all these beautiful human faces today. Hello. Thank you for your patience. I had a little difficulty with the link, but we are ready to roll. So we have a lot of material to cover together today. So I'm going to jump right into the PowerPoint. And I guess if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll circle back. But I just want to get through as much of this as we can to give you kind of a foundation of where we can go with this conversation. And can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
EJ, is there any problem?
No, hold on. I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the right PowerPoint.
Okay, sounds good.
Whoops. Oh, that's why I didn't recognize it's not on the home page. There we go. Okay.
It's coming on now.
And you should see full screen, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Here we go.
All right, beautiful. Okay, so this isn't supposed to be advancing automatically, so I apologize for that. And I just changed all these settings and I don't know why it's doing that, so I apologize. Let me make sure I have the right one open. Yeah, I do. All right, so I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, hold on, let me make sure I'm telling it to. No, there we go. There we go. Okay, here we are. We're rocking and rolling now. So human first culture and AI. And I put them together because right now, humanity is not separate from AI any longer. And this is a reality that we have to kind of adjust to and adapt to. I'm here today to talk to you about how we protect human agency, innovation, and community. And even though this is a much broader topic than that, I really want to focus on these three particular areas because they are probably the most impactful of any of the topics that any entrepreneur, any community leader, any nonprofit leader, any someone that volunteer, anyone, teacher, educator, government official, anyone, this is what we need to be talking about. So for thousands of years, humans have been looking for ways to automate and make life simpler. And for decades, men have been developing machines to exceed humans in every possible way. Not just intelligence, but now we have robots that can run faster, that are stronger, that can go into fire. So we have created a competitor to the human species. Previous revolutions, like the industrial and the internet revolution, changed the human experience. And a lot of folks that really don't see any risk with AI, this is their first argument, is that we had the internet revolution, the automobile was invented, they said everyone would lose their jobs. But those things changed the way we live. They didn't change the human. And now we have an AI revolution where the technology is actually changing the experience and humans, and it's actually interfering with the human agency and how we are present in the universe as body, mind, and soul. So I want to ask you really quickly, if you could just drop in the chat, or maybe just think to yourself if you don't want to drop in the chat, but out of a one through 5, how concerned are you about the future that is being created around AI? 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. And I really wanted you to just think about this just for a minute to kind of gauge where your thinking is, because this is really important as you move forward. And it might change based on what we talk about today or what you do after today. My goal here today is to introduce you to the value of the human first culture and offer 5 ways that we can implement a human first culture that protects human agency, innovation, and community. So since 2015, AI experts have publicly predicted how AI could harm humans and even lead to extinction. This is not talked about nearly enough. In 2015, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said AI will likely lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there'll be really great companies.
Ah,
I'll let that rest on its own. And here, I try not to editorialize, so you'll get to know me a little bit. I really like people to kind of process things on their own. I love Helen's comment, by the way. And I want you to understand. So I'm introducing you to how these tech billionaires are thinking. These are the people that are driving the AI innovation. In 2015, Elon Musk told a scientist that robots will likely use humans as pets once superintelligence is achieved. He suggested AI might identify what makes people happy and conclude that all unhappy humans must be terminated, or that maybe they should capture humans and inject them with dopamine and serotonin to make them happy, if that was their task. Perspective. In June 2024, British Canadian computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton, he's known as the AI, the godfather of AI. He told CBS that AI systems this was recently, by the way, in June, just a couple months ago. The AI systems may be more intelligent than we know, and there's a chance machines could take over, and that we're moving into a period for the first time ever that may have things that are more intelligent than us. Let that sink in for a moment. He thinks we might already have. So if you don't know what that means, that's a translation for AGI. So AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, which is the point where the technological singularity is believed to occur. When AI becomes more intelligent than humans, it can become runaway technology and become uncontrollable, and then basically the future is no longer ours to decide. So this is a pretty chilling comment, and I apologize if you hear snoring. That's not me; that's my dog. They basically are telling us, so we're eliminating your jobs, and we want you to trust us. And I think I missed a slide here, or did I? I think I might have mixed up the order here. So I'm going to jump ahead here. So if you haven't seen this, I'll skip this when we get to it. In 2017, McKinsey came out and said that 400 to 800 million people would lose their jobs to AI. In 2021, after the pandemic, they said that timeline, and that was going to be by 2030, that timeline was accelerated, and there would be probably about 25% more jobs lost to AI. Now, the math is roughly 500,000 to 1 billion jobs lost to AI. These are people that cannot find work because their profession no longer exists, and there's not enough jobs to employ them. So now we understand where billionaires are now trying to think of how are we going to buy what we need? How do we survive? We as a species, humans. And they're basically going to say, well, we've eliminated your jobs. Now trust us for the basic needs you have for survival. And there's a lot here, but in a nutshell, universal basic income is it's basically a way for an entity, whether it's government or a combination of government and nonprofit entities, but essentially they want to give you a check every month, and you don't have to do anything to earn it. That's the concept. No strings attached, they say. And some of the advocates of this are Andrew Yang, Sam Altman, and Elon Musk, according to Business Insider. So there's a big disconnect. So what we have is this, it feels like this is a runaway train. I used to think that, and that's how I ended up with thousands of hours of research in this. And I'm going to share with you some of the observances that emerged in my research, because it just doesn't reconcile. How can they come out and warn us that humanity is in danger, but then continue, on the other hand, to accelerate their technology with no pause? So the problem is AI is not really improving the quality of life for humans. And I'm going to share a couple of data points here with you. Data reveals a future being built around AI does not improve human quality of life. It does risk humanity, and the returns on billions invested is in decline. And this is the data I just shared with you about the jobs. 77% of executives and professionals now say AI tools make them less productive. Now, think about that for a minute, because that was the big promise when we started getting AI integrated into things like Microsoft Office, generative AI tools like ChatGPT. And you don't even know that you're using AI most of the time. Actually, I got involved with the AI and machine learning way back around 2000 through the context of search engines. I used to research algorithms back in the day. So that was like 25 years ago, and that was a form of AI. So what we have to realize is the premise that this was going to make us more productive so we would have more free time falls on its face. And in 2024, freedom of the press fell 7.6 points globally. Freedom of expression dropped around the world. Less than 25% of the world's population now live in free societies. And approximately half of the global population now lives in a country of crisis, more than any other in this century. So AI is not helping, not improving our productivity. It's potentially putting us out of work. It's suppressing free speech and freedom of expression. It's certainly not promoting peace. And now it's embedded in almost every aspect of human life. Everything you do, from banking, shopping, using your phone, GPS in the car, making your travel arrangements, using Microsoft Word or any other application on your computer. Everything essentially has an AI element embedded in it now. And there is no off switch. Now, they say that there is no way to turn this off. The only way be able to do it is to unplug, basically eliminate power for AI, which would eliminate power for us as well. So the fate of humans is in the hands of a few. And this is a major disconnect. So they say they can't predict what will happen when AI exceeds human intelligence. Let's just go on that premise. If they don't know, how does that make you feel? I don't know about you, but that's a little scary to me, that the people that are supposed to be in charge of this, it's a little unsettling. And what we do know about human psychology is that fear is the basis. Fear of the unknown is the basis of all other fears. So there's definitely a fear factor here, but fear is optional. And this is why we're here today, because I don't want to just scare you. I want you to start thinking about what we can do. And I say we because none of us can do this alone. This really has to be a humanity effort. So human first culture in AI protects human agency, creativity, ingenuity, and innovation. I put them all together because those are human aspects. It's not just about acceleration of technology or problem solving or efficiency or profit. It's about innovation. And I always say robots don't innovate. And then community, which is huge, because without community, we don't change anything. So I want to address human agency first. A lot of people have never heard this term, but it basically means free will. It means the freedom and ability to make your own decisions and live life according to your own personal values, beliefs, and goals. And it's expressed often through individual expression, whether that's how you write, you sing, maybe you compose music, maybe you speak, maybe you train people or educate others, you serve, maybe you're a volunteer. But everything you do is of your own volition. It's a personal choice. And then agency is also expressed through choosing what education that you want to pursue, so you can round out your personal knowledge and your perspective on things, your choice of profession. Autonomy and sovereignty are huge. Autonomy is the freedom to decide that you're going to the market on Sunday and then you're going to get on a plane and maybe go to Italy for the summer. Sovereignty is, I talk about this and we'll address it again later on, but sovereignty is the ability for you to own your personal self, your body, mind, and soul. And there's a reason why I focus on this. I'm not sure we'll have time today to get to it, but this is a really big one because it is in jeopardy right now. And then ingenuity and collaboration and spiritual beliefs. So you can't if you don't have human agency, you can't decide what you believe in. You can't decide if you have a faith, because ultimately the way this is being designed is that they really all want us to be part of this grand global network where individuality basically disappears. And some of the people doing BCIs, like brain embedded chips, I don't want to single out any one person, but they believe that that will enable them to download someone's memories and thoughts and their information and either upload it to a machine or another person. So you can see where this all of a sudden becomes one, it may turn into one grand big thing, but individuals or agency is gone, in other words. So then, excuse me, 20, what year was this? I don't remember what year this was, but experts were polled by Pew Research, and most of them agreed by 2035, smart machines, bots, and systems will not be designed to allow humans to easily be in control of making decisions for themselves regarding their own lives. That's pretty eye-opening. So we're going to talk about solutions later, but I want to keep addressing some of the ways that we can do this. We can, of course, align. So we want our culture and our AI to align with human values and virtues. There is discussion of the word alignment in the AI arena. It's not often pursued except for the theorists and the people that are typically outside of these companies, because right now we can tell right now that AI isn't terribly in line with how a lot of people want to live their lives. Ethics has become a hot button issue. Ethics should technically, and I've worked in technological development. There's a rhythm, there's a pattern, there's a playbook, if you will, and ethics should be part of that. It should be integrated through every step of the development process of technology, especially with something with the implications that AI has. A lot of organizations have eliminated their ethics teams. And ethics was one of the big reasons that Sam Altman, his board fired him. And then he was reinstated and those board members left because they felt that he was not being forthcoming and honest with the board about the technology. And there were risks there that they felt he was not being honest about. So there's an ethical dilemma there. Regardless of whether it was correct or not, there was obviously a conflict, and that indicates a challenge. Responsible AI means understanding the implications, not just alignment with human values, but taking responsibility for the implications and the impact on humanity. Transparency and reporting. And people often ask me about regulation, and I want to address that just for a moment because I don't believe that we will have global AI regulation. I go into great detail to explain this in my book. We don't have time for that today, but I don't believe we're going to have global regulation. So these are the things that we can do in lieu of. Transparency and reporting is essential. Everyone has a black box. They keep calling it a black box. They say they don't know what happens behind it. They just put everything in and they never know what's coming out, which doesn't sound like a really good business model. So we have to take that with a grain of salt. And then accountability. If harm is done, then who is accountable, the machine or the humans that created it? Especially when AI becomes more intelligent than humans and can evade human control, who is responsible for that? Protection of liberties. And so this is protecting, the things that humans hold dear, the freedom of speech, etc., and then right of refusal. And this is the ability for humans to say thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to be part of this. And having the ability to opt out. So how are we on time? I know I'm going to run long, probably. I can't see the time. So I'll just keep going until you stop me, Alan. So creativity, ingenuity, and innovation. The expression of a human's thoughts and ideas is it's absolutely essential that this be able to occur without suppression. And right now we have AI emulating what humans have created. It sucks it all in, and then it can regurgitate pieces, parts of it, but it really isn't creating on its own. It can compose music, but it's really using everything that it's heard that humans have already created to do that. It can write a poem, but it's using everything that humans have done before. So it's really it doesn't have original thought yet, although some of it does. And quite honestly, AI that thinks it can is as dangerous as AI that can do anything. So this impacts everything from music, literature, and arts, competition, whether it be chess, athletics, uh, quilting bee, it doesn't really matter. Inventions, ingenuity, when someone creates something, who owns the right to it? And we have now blurring lines because when people are using AI, even unknowingly, when they're creating something, that does the AI have ownership of part of that now? And so we have a really interesting dynamic developing with this particular part of humanity. Collaboration is something that really should happen between humans. And you can ask a generative AI prompt, a chat GPT or a similar chatbot. You can ask it a question, it'll give you an answer, but it's really not going to brainstorm with you. It'll give you answers and it'll respond to your prompts, but it's not the same as sitting in a room whiteboarding ideas and coming up with something really spectacular. And I know that because I've done it with so many brilliant people. I know exactly what that feels like. So if you haven't, you got to try it. And then human agency, which we just spoke of. So I want to touch on this really briefly. So that AI is using human creation. A lot of the generative AI models and AI companies have absorbed human copyrighted content, literature, music, etc. Some of it, much of it, without permission. And there's a really big debate going on about this because there's no attribution, there's no compensation. AI can't answer the question without the human creation, but the human creation is being disconnected from the answer. They're saying it's in a black box, they can't attribute. So do you want news coming from a source that can't tell you where it got its information? So the implications of this are really quite large, but I just really kind of wanted to plant the seed here.
Why don't you take about 7 minutes more, Rebecca? Okay.
Okay. So I'll make this PowerPoint available if anyone's interested, but these are the aspects that we have to address. AI systems, shadow banning, blacklisting, suspending people from platforms, etc. So now we're going to I'm going to jump into how we leverage human first culture and AI to offset some of these. Number one is be informed. And I can't stress this enough. And I know this is why I have spent so much time on this research, because not a lot of people have the time to do that. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, which is why, it has snowballed for me. But there are ways that you can do it. And this is just a quote that I said a few times, so I just threw it in here. But it's really important for every single human to understand what's happening around them and to them in this era. And what we're doing today is we're talking about the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And I have invested thousands of hours, but I've also, in addition to research, I've talked to people and you know, learned from these conversations and collaborations. And there's some things that we all share, that we all believe in being essential to offsetting and being informed so we can navigate this and be productive and live happy, fulfilling lives. So read research papers, follow AI experts, watch interviews, subscribe to newsletters, talk to people in tech, talk to people outside tech, and be curious to whatever level is interesting to you. But anything you can do will help you immensely navigate what's coming, because there's some big changes coming. The second one, I'm mentioning my book because it's coming out very soon. Like Alan said, it was 400 pages, so I'm cutting it in half because it's just too much for one person to read in one sitting. But it's important for everyone to understand the difference between fact and fiction, because we aren't going to be able to trust the AI for that fact and fiction. We have to be able to get that information on our own. Number two is alignment. So if we want AI to be aligned with our values, we have to be aligned with our own values. And this means really trying to be mindful and understanding what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And this is easier said than done. It sounds really instinctual, but in this era, believe it or not, it's not. So we want to adopt the human first ethos and then embrace ethical, responsible technology. And that means everything that you use, everything you, if you choose to use something, be responsible with it. If you're going to submit a report and you've only used generative AI, then maybe you want to kind of add some of your own perspective just to make it more valuable and meaningful. Protect and respect people. So if you have employees, if you have students, if you have children, if you have, anyone that you encounter, the more that, so here's what I always say. AI is learning how to treat humans by watching and listening and reading humans. That's a pretty scary thing in this world right now. So the more we can be proactive in pursuing the truth and treating each other with kindness and being informed, we can push the needle, so to speak. Audit your work and investments for risk. So this means everything that could be exposed to. Don't put personal information in generative AI prompts. Don't copy and paste reports or people's personal data or whatever. It sounds really simple, but people are really doing this. Cybersecurity experts tell me this. They're blown away by what people put into these models. And then educate others about the human first ethos, connect and collaborate with people that are in that space. Now, this is one of the reasons I started Ascently Institute, because we wanted people to start thinking about what human first meant in this conversation. Because when I started talking about this a few years ago, a lot of people just really didn't understand why this was necessary. And they've all come back to me since and said, Rebecca, I get it now. So it's really important that we understand this moment, but also we meet the moment. So I want you to also consider connecting with other people, engage in open discussion, find platforms like this and have one-on-one conversations with people. Even people you don't agree with, you'll learn from each other. Discuss current events, things that are in the headlines, things you see on the news, do your own research, share tech developments, meet to explore solutions. In other words, don't just talk about the problem, try and think of a solution. Invite others to the conversation and engage them and keep an open mind. This is one of the things that we're doing. We're creating the human first society because a lot of folks are getting suspended from social media platforms when they're talking about some of this, or they're being shadow banned. So we're creating our own platform. It has a community aspect to it. For $1 a month. I mean, we don't sell data or anything, but we're trying to create another environment for people to have honest conversation about these topics that big tech may not welcome and suppress. And number 5 is collaborate. We can't solve these problems if we're not working with other people. This is like a big thing of mine. I love getting people together, putting them in the room and trying to solve problems. The sum is always, or the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. When you can put even 2 or 5 amazing people in a room, even if they have totally different backgrounds, you might be really shocked to see, and make sure they're different. Cognitively different is the important part. So try to mix it up a little bit. And the way to do that is just solve real problems, identify challenges, build trust so that you have a safe place that people feel that they can be heard, respect all points of view, support one another, share opportunities, and watch magic happen, because this is what we need right now. The nonprofit, we are launching a couple of really large initiatives at the beginning of 2025. But that's only because I have an amazing team that is around me, and we all care about this. And we've been meeting silently, having all these conversations and trying to think of how to solve these problems. Everyone needs to be thinking about this in their organization, in their community, in their nation, and most importantly, in their family, in their home life.
Okay,
So
Rebecca, thank you very much. That might be a
that's
good
it.
place.
Yeah.
Okay. One quick question on your social media platform that for dollar a month. Is that
Yeah.
something that anybody would be welcome? Is the language too technical for us to go back and forth? What's the level of give and take there?
Oh no, it's not a tech environment at all.
Okay.
It's totally, it's just a community for people to share information, have conversations, share fears, and we're just ramping it up, but you'll be pleasantly surprised to see how many non-tech people I have on my team.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
it's
I'm going
really
to invite him.
important.
Very good. We'll get back to some more questions here, but Chris, I'm going to invite up Chris Wright, and we've had him before. Um, I'm just going to jump into your bio real quick here, but Chris is leading a crucial mission against corruption, big tech, and the risks posed by AI. Let me move this over there. With over 25 years experience in entrepreneurship, military, and piloting. He's the head of AITC, which is dedicated to optimizing digital trust online and mitigating the potentially negative impact of AI. So, with his vision, Chris aims to revolutionize the way digital trust is built and maintained in the modern world. And he spoke here before on his project. Chris, if you could take about 5 minutes and just give some feedback on what you think are the important parts of what Rebecca has shared, or to give us
Yeah,
some further feedback. Thank you.
sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for the invite to be on with you. Yeah, right now we're facing an emergency, biblical proportions. It's a fundamental transformation of humanity is underway currently. The fact that it's not being openly talked about shows you that the people that are behind it want to gain the capability and progress in this field and allow AI to grow to the point where we're dependent on it. And then that's when the conversations will start to happen where, how do we manage it? How do we make it safe and that kind of thing. But right now we're in the growth phase. So, we're really only about 2 years into this. And one of the things that Rebecca talked about was, this ability for AI to replace human labor. And right now, we're still in the early phases of AI. It's going to get much, much better to the point where it's able to replace any sort of human worker. If you work from a computer at home, these digital agents can replace that type of work. You have robotics that are coming in soon that will actually be able to, replace a lot of different types of human labor as well. And so what that means is that, this is a no joke emergency as far as employment. Their solution is to just provide a social security form of payment that's called UBI, Universal Basic Income. And so, if you got a nice career, you've worked hard your whole life to try to get an education, you've got kids in college that are trying to be an expert in something, guaranteed AI will outmatch the human labor pool. So it's, for an entrepreneur, business owner, the, there's a competition right now between humans and this AI, and AI is going to win unless humans come together and step in. And so that's up to us to set the parameters for how this goes. And so, my background's military aviation. We have a term we call the two challenge rule in aviation. And the two challenge rule means that if you see an emergency, you tell the other pilot who's flying with you, who's on the flight controls, say, hey, there's an emergency, avoid hitting that mountain or avoid hitting that obstacle or whatever. If they don't respond, you say, hey, there's an emergency one more time. And if they still don't change their flight path or do something to correct the emergency, then it's your responsibility as the non-flying pilot to take control of the aircraft. And so we're in that position right now where you have tech leadership they're hell bent on creating a different future than what we're used to. They're interested in merging digitally with the technology, meaning that they're trying to speciate or change the human species. And that sounds kind of wild and it sounds like sci-fi, but the tech billionaires are kids that grew up in tech and became billionaires. They love sci-fi. They love, Dungeons and Dragons. They're into this sci-fi world, and so they welcome any sort of sci-fi, futuristic future. And so they dream about this stuff. They're like, oh, we're gonna, I've had conversations with senior tech leaders that have said that they're happy to be on the front row seat to the end of humanity, because they think that if they don't do it, then someone else will, and they're accepting of humanity's extinction as long as you can bring about this AI future. And so what they consider is that if you can gather as much detail digitally on our current reality and then upload that to a cloud, then if we go extinct, then that's totally acceptable, because we can then exist into the future in a digital form and seed the cosmos with our intelligence. And this is 100% factual. You can listen to people like Noah Yuval Harari. He's with the World Economic Forum. He believes that humans are hackable animals. And in fact, biologically, with these advancements in AI, that is true. And so they've solved the protein folding problem. And so they were able to hack our DNA, our genetics, and transform humans.
Chris, okay, thank you very much. I want to ask Rebecca to just maybe respond to this last what Chris just said about the parameters and where we're at. Of course, you're want to give us some hope, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. It actually gets a lot scarier than even what Chris is portraying. It's He and I have had numerous conversations that probably would really give people nightmares. And I've actually had nightmares from some of the things that I've uncovered writing this book. I will say that it can become very frightening because we are dealing with there are missing pieces to this, and the fact that there's no transparency is very troubling. They do have crazy plans, but the time is running out for us to step up, and there is an urgency, like Chris says, for us to understand. We have to educate people. This is one of the reasons I started the nonprofit, because we have a huge educational or information gap, and this is it's really imperative that we do this like a million times a year. I mean, I'm building a whole team to be able to do presentations like this, because it's really imperative that everyone understand what's happening to them and around them, so that we can have informed conversations. When we ask people to step up, they know what they're stepping up to, because they really don't understand the risk at this moment.
Okay, so education, we're informed, we understand the dangers. There's a desire to put a halt or slow down this evolution. What can we do? What are some of the key steps? Is it political legislation? I think you said parameters are not really, likely, but how do we, how does the public, we the people, put a little halt to this?
Yeah, parameters can be likely. We're not going to get regulation. We're not going to get global regulation. And it took me a long time to figure out why. I instinctively knew it, but it really took me a long time. So I lay it all out so you can decide for yourself whether you agree with me or not. Try not to tell people what to do or what to think. I really want to just lay it out so everyone can make their decision, because that's our problem right now, right? We have people telling us exactly what they want based on their perspective. And so I try to lay up the information so people can decide for themselves what their response is, how they feel, and what they want in the future. All the people that I'm talking to really feel very strongly that this is something that we can control, but it's not going to be through regulation.
I have a question here that says, what if human creativity, intelligence, spirituality, etc., are infinite? It seems that the danger main of being sucked into these systems as we use them, but can't we always insist in ourselves on our internal intellectual creativity and spiritual freedom?
So one of the things they talk about is wanting to create immortality. But their version of immortality and the way the most of the world sees it is very different. They want to achieve immortality through digital means, where 94% of the world believes that when they die, there's a soul that ascends. And even atheists, a lot of atheists even believe that they have a soul, that when they die, that a soul ascends. So there's a conflict there as well. Creativity, all of it, all, these are all, there's things that AI cannot do. And there's things that, when you get into quantum science and all of that, you realize that we haven't even begun to tap what we are organically capable of doing. And that's a whole other conversation. We haven't even entered that conversation yet, but we got to bring people up to speed on this first so that they can embrace that information and adapt. But right now, it's just a matter of whether we want to be organic or non-organic beings. That's the
Okay.
really big question.
Okay. Are writers, lawmakers, do they need to declare if they're using AI in their talks and write-ups, etc.?
I think that's going to be very difficult to do because even word processing and email programs use AI now.
Okay. We have a lot of appreciation for the discussion and the opportunity to have meet with others and discuss these topics. And they thank you a lot for that. Um, I had there was an article recently. If one of you want to comment about Sam Altman going to promoting this idea of uh, to the government of increasing the infrastructure for a blueprint for artificial intelligence development as a means to compete with China here in the United States. Either of you have any thoughts about that, whether that's good or bad, or if Sam Altman's the one proposing it, is that a red
Well,
flag?
we have AI companies now buying. So I believe Bill Gates is looking at buying a nuclear power plant that's been in down. It's been, I forgot the term that they use, but they basically, ran it. It's off, but he wants to bring it online to generate power for the grid. The demand for AI power it exceeds our infrastructure. But I do see some really crazy things as to how they want to create power. And I believe that there are going to be some alternative power sources evolving. They're going to get really creative because this is something they're not going to let go. They're not going to let electricity stop them. That's the last thing. But and I don't want to scare anyone with any of the other stuff, but there's some really crazy ideas out there.
Yeah.
Um,
And Sam Altman in particular, he got let go from the board for not being honest with the board and they were worried about safety, and they were so concerned that they actually removed him from OpenAI, and then they had a bunch of developers that protested, and so he got brought back in. But you have senior alignment and safety engineers who were hired at OpenAI to provide guidance on safety and making sure it's pro-human, and most of those people have either quit or been fired from OpenAI. And so if you have statements coming out of Sam Altman, he represents perfectly this mind virus issue where they're not necessarily pro-human, they're pro-AI. And so they're pro-AI to the point of extinction. And even with Rebecca's statement in the beginning, he's building. So he said, we're probably going to go extinct, but there's going to be some amazing companies that are going to be made in the meantime. And so that represents exactly his level of concern for safety. And so if you have folks like that, because he's super wealthy and very prominent, people listen to him. But you have to analyze his personal behavior a little more closely and understand that there is a mindset difference. And I don't know where it comes from, but this mindset,
I do.
yeah,
I do.
there's a
Yeah,
difference.
I do. At least I think I do. So yeah, so he's not alone though. So I hate really honing in on one person. Like I really try not to do that because uh identifying one person in this environment or this dynamic is kind of crazy once you realize how connected it all is. So and it's definitely I mean, I would never use the word. I know why you use it, Chris, the mind virus part. We've talked about that, but um, this is very deliberate. This is not whimsical. This
Yeah.
is not this is a very, very deliberate, well thought out, well executed, well-oiled machine. And it is, and this has been going on for decades. Decades. This is not new. AI is not new. And the way that this is evolving, and all I can say, like there's like I could literally sit here for like 3 days and talk to you guys about this. So, there's just so much to unpack, but it is definitely they think differently than the rest of us. It's a matter of reconciling what they want and what the rest of humanity wants, but humanity has not been invited to the conversation.
Rebecca,
That's
are there any white horse champions in the technological upper echelon that are going to be in the news, or we can begin to understand to kind of fight back against this, or is it just the religious fear of people standing up? There's no white knight, huh?
I think we're our own white knight. I will tell you that I've had amazing conversations with people around the world in very influential positions. Some of them are technologists, some of them are involved in AI. Uh, I'll just share this is kind of crazy. This for some reason this popped in my head. So I'll share it because maybe someone here will find this interesting. But I went to CES in January, which is the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. It's huge. It takes over all of Vegas and it's all about technology and they were all in on AI. This was January of last year. And I was in this hospitality lounge, which is where all the people get together and that's where all the deals are made, right? So I was having a conversation with this woman. She has 10,000 AI developers in her network. She's in her late 20s, very young. And it's really odd because we met in Vegas, but I lived in New York before I moved to Arizona. And we literally lived probably 7 or 8 miles from each other when we lived there. So it was kind of interesting that we met there. But I asked her if she had any concerns about humanity and AI. And she said, no, I think it's great. There's no threat. And I said, so how do you feel? What do you feel about BCIs, the brain embedded chips? And this is like the Neuralink, but Neuralink's not the only one. There's many. Like I say, I hate to single out one because some make it to the news and some don't. But I asked her how she felt about them. And she said, I think it's going to be amazing. We won't have to try and remember things. We'll be able to capture our memories. And I said, okay. So I said, you're a relatively young woman. Do you plan on having a family? And she said, yes. And I said, so at what point? Because if the idea is that we're going to capture every person's thoughts, memories from cradle to grave, when you have that baby, at what point do you embed that chip in their brain? And her face went white. And that told me everything I needed to know because they're just not thinking about it. And I know this because I've worked in technology. I've worked with Silicon Valley companies. I mean, I get it. There's an adrenaline thing that happens when you're creating something. And the problem is, I think there's a disconnect between the science fiction version of the world and the future and the organic, soulful existence of humanity. And so that it doesn't, I don't know if we're in for a battle per se, but I think up to this point, they've had a pretty free ride because no one really understood what they were doing. And now that it's starting to unfold, that's why I really emphasize this education piece. And I'm working really as hard as I possibly can to try and get this book out the door before the end of the year. I mean, I'm so close to the final edits on it, but I mean, it really is. There's so much in it. You're only going to be able to read a little bit at a time. Hopefully, you don't get nightmares. I tried to soften it a little bit because I was having nightmares when I was writing it, which is
Oh,
kind of
okay.
crazy because there's not much that scares me. But it's really important that we help people understand this moment. Our children and our children's children depend on it because we could be, we could be looking at the last organic I say organic, I mean biological humans, the last generations of biological humans, which is kind of
Okay.
crazy.
Another question here is closing to wrapping up, but since this is an economic group here, let's talk about UBI, Universal Basic Income. Do you think, from your research, is that close to happening? Is it can it be forced? Where are we at with that from your research and discussions? Because
So I
I
included
don't think you're a believer in that so much, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not for a couple of reasons. But I kind of that was probably the most fact slide I put in front of you today, was that the cost of running a program like that is insane. And some people believe, because they've tried to present it, that because AI became smart from all of us, that we'll be sharing the profit. And that's not happened to date. And these people, when you look at the profit that they've made over the last 24 months, how much they've pocketed from this. And like that's why I shared with you earlier in those slides how the quality of life for humans is in decline. AI is not empowering us. So who is benefiting? So I don't think UBI is it's very expensive to run. They said it was millions just to do it for like 1,000 people for a year. And that's cost prohibitive. Look at what stimulus checks did to the economy and try to sustain that. And those were just one-time checks. Try to do that for everyone in the country. I don't see that happening. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be forced at some point, because, people will have to have, we can't imagine what it's going to look like, right? We can't imagine the future. And that's why we're trying to do this, is to prevent that from happening. But we can't imagine what it would be like if 40 or 50% of the nation was unemployed. It would be worse than the Depression. And that's why I use that 29% of the 400 to 800 million people is about 29% of the American population. And that is the equivalent of the Great Depression. And then McKinsey upped it and said it might be 25% people more losing their jobs to AI. So we have to, and do we really want AI running everything? It's at some point, who decides? Before AI decides, we should decide. So that's why I started, the Ascently Institute, was to try and give people a voice, so humans have a place to have these conversations.
Okay. If we were to have you back on, what would you be able to talk about, Rebecca, with all that you have left?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Pick a topic. I'll give you a copy of the book. You can tell me what you want to talk
Yeah,
about.
anyway,
So
if you can make the slides available, that would be great. Well, thank you. I guess we're at about
thank you
the end
all.
of,
I
end
appreciate
of our
you.
time. Hope everyone enjoyed that. And you would encourage us to maybe connect to that community. We can share the human side. One takeaway I have is that we need to get our own act together on human values and alignment ourselves, so that that's a more powerful force to stand up against the distracting technological tearing us apart kind of world, right? So thank you all. Appreciate you coming on. Join us any Tuesday. We also have some programs every Wednesday on stopping the violence, and we're coming up with a big conference on that. UPF has been working hard to gather experts in the field on that area. So there'll be a conference in Las Vegas in December on that. So hope to put together a guidebook on the best practices communities are taking. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thanks, Rebecca and Chris, again.
Thank you.
Thank you.